So I feel like I got so much swim run experience in this one summer, whereas I still have so much room to grow as a swim runner. I really challenged myself to what was possible this summer, and I look forward to like continue to grow.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a swim run podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 198 of the show. We've got a great one for everyone this week. Joining us on the podcast is Brendan Sickau. He had an epic summer of swim running all over Europe. Prepare to be amazed, inspired, and most of all, stoked.
The stoke is high, as usual on the show.
Super high.
But first, training update. Speaking of high stoke levels, we are stoked for Ödyssey Swimrun Austin in Pacebin Park. It's just about a month away. So we've started ramping up our specific training for the course and getting the work in at the pool and on the trails.
Yeah.
Fun time there.
Yeah, I'm starting
Looking forward to it.
I'm starting to kind of get back into it. I mean, not to get super deep on anything, but after the World Champs, I was injured.
Yeah.
Had some I don't want to call it, definitely not capital P, but PTSD. It hurt so much, and I've been sort of struggling getting the spark back. I've still been doing the work, but it's been the kind of thing where it's like I'm not getting the joy.
Yeah, you're not hey, I want to wake up and get in the pool at 5:30.
Yeah, I'm getting it done. So in that respect, I'm not slacking off, but it's so much harder when it's just the motivation isn't there.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm just going through this valley, but it's cool because we get to do a race in a few weeks. I'm very stoked for that. And I'm just hoping some racing, hopefully it doesn't get canceled or something. Some racing will pull me out of my little funk.
Yeah, I think once it gets closer, the excitement will building. But I think that also speaks, and I've gone through this before, obviously, last year and other times as well. But the sort of come down after the race is sometimes tough, especially a really big marquee event like that. So totally understandable. But and you also took a tree branch to the lake, so that
Dude.
That also had something to do with it.
Honestly, I'll go on trail runs now, and I'm super paranoid that I'm going to get impaled again. It's a problem. It's a little bit of a problem. Like I said, it's not I don't think I require counseling or anything or medication, but there is some trauma that I'm trying to work through because that fucking sucked. Anyway.
Well, I'm here to help if you need it.
Cheers.
We'll go chop down some trees. Just go
Start
out there
a
with
fire.
some chainsaws and just start wreaking havoc in Marin County.
Start a campfire, not a forest fire. Everyone.
Now on to this week's shout-outs.
Yeah, this week we're shouting out our newest patrons on Patreon, Sarah Booth, Peter Jervis. Thank you both so much for the support of our super niche brand of content. It's always just whenever a new one signs up, I'm just bless their hearts.
I'm this person is willing to part with some money to support us. I'm very grateful for it. Thank you so much, Sarah and Peter. A double this week. Love to see it.
So kind of you. Thank you.
Now, if you're wondering what's Patreon, what's this that you speak of, it's a monthly, if you choose monthly subscription, I guess, if you will, that shows support of us. So you $5, $10, whatever you feel like you want to give. And what we give back to you is free random stuff throughout the year. Sometimes that'll be stickers. You get deep discount codes for Low Tide Boys merchandise, random stickers, the new buffs, swim caps, whatever we decide. But we just our way of kind of giving back and then saying thank you there. Some people do it for a month or two and then cancel or whatever. Some people sign up for a year. We're appreciative of any and everyone.
Yeah, really, really helps just cover all the expenses of the show. So thank you so much. Bonus shout out, Brendan's mom.
Yep. She's maybe she'll be subscribing soon.
Yeah, she'll at least be listening to this episode.
She'll be listening to this episode. We know for sure. But on to this week's Feats of Endurance. So in case you're living under a rock this weekend, and that would be a rock without Wi-Fi, the women's Ironman World Championship took place in Kona, Hawaii. and it features some amazing racing and amazing vibes. So over 2,000 women raced, including a few of our Strava Club members, and we know them swim runners at heart, but they're just donning the
just like
donning
side
the tri
things,
bike.
like
It's just a little side thing there. But Kathryn, Meinhardt, and Kristen Waugh, congrats on your epic accomplishment at the Ironman World Championship.
So many good stories. If anyone wants a really deep dive episode of guest one of the show, Kelly O'Mara, her newsletter, it's called Triathlonish.
Yes.
She did a whole breakdown. She was there. I mean, it's her perspective is always welcome, but a lot of really interesting stats. Like basically she was saying like the vibe was awesome, and seeing like all the dads with like the kids and strollers and like cheering on the women was awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
Also, every single woman, it was over 2,000. Everyone made the swim cutoff, which never happened when it was co-ed or when it was all, mostly men. So, you know, kudos to the women there.
Way to go.
It just looked great. Looked
nice.
Super great.
And hot, as it tends to be in Kona. So, congratulations again, Kathryn and Kristen. They're in our Low Tide Boys Strava Club, giving and receiving kudos on a regular basis there. Now on to the Summer of Swimrun with Brendan.
Yeah, it was so fun to talk to Brendan. I mean, he's 21 years old, has long hair like us, so that's, we go love him already.
Saw a little bit of myself in this boy.
Yeah. Plus, this dude loves swimrun. In this conversation, we chatted about where that love was born, his summer of swimrunning all over Europe, which, I mean, geez.
Yeah.
We got some mini race reports along the way and just so much more. I mean, this conversation was deep on some level. Mm-hmm. It was like an adventure. I mean, we were initially going to call this episode Brendan Sickau, like Swimrun Adventurer. But as we're talking, we're like, we got to change the title of this thing, man. This was like a summer of love.
Yeah, it was really good. And I loved how much growth he had as a person from
confidence,
just, whenever summer kicked off for him in May or June or whatever to, let's just say, Ödyssey that he did race and finish this year was just a really cool journey for him. So that was awesome to hear him chat through that.
For sure. Yeah, this is a great one.
Yes. So without any further ado, let's get into our conversation with Brendan Sickau for a Summer of Swimrun. Supposed to be the Summer of Swimrun.
Okay, very excited for this conversation. We started it on a couch in Sweden. There was a lot of people around, and we're like, wait, hold that thought, because we need to get him on the show. I asked him right then and there. He said yes. Took a little while to get him on, but welcome to the show, Brendan Sickau. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We finally recovered from Ödyssey.
oh, good.
A month plus, 5 weeks after.
Yeah. You guys ready for Austin?
Yeah, looking forward to Austin. Yeah. It's the heat's been hanging around here in Northern California, so whenever I'm really sweating on a run, I'll be like, okay, it's just heat acclimation is what I'm doing. Getting ready for Austin.
Perfect.
Well, it's our show. We're the ones asking questions, Brendan. So let's start with...
My bad.
Yeah, no worries. Forgive you. Let's start with your swimrun origin story, man. You've done a ton of races. Tons of races in
a
Europe,
short amount of time.
In a short amount of time. Like, where did you find swimrun and sort of get the bug?
Good question. So my very first swim run was 2 years ago exactly from this year's Ödyssey. It was over when I was spending a year in Denmark as an assistant dean at kind of what would be a high school here in the States. And I heard about this race and I wanted to try it. That was the final 15K at that point. That race, I think, almost killed me when I did it. And then I just got it in my head to do the full Ödyssey. And that's kind of what happened this summer through, I guess you could call it a serendipitous series of events. I knew it was in my head to do it, and I knew I wanted to. It wasn't necessarily guaranteed that it was going to happen this summer, but it ended up working out that it did. So yeah, I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite, Ödyssey is not a race that I think people see and they're immediately like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that as soon as possible. It's like, oh, I need to,
right. Well, and especially after
feel it out
like
a little bit more.
If the final 15 kicked your ass, you're not like, you know what, let me just do the whole thing now.
Hey, this 15K murdered me nearly. How I'm going to sign up for 70Ks of the same thing. But I mean, you have certainly, if you turned your baseball card over, the races that you've done, the swim runs that you've done is rather super impressive. I mean, I had the Waugh swim run, Rockman this year, Ödyssey, and so you just sort of, after the final 15, you just tried to find as many as you could, and you were already over in Europe, so that probably helped you get around a little bit more to more races.
Yeah, so like after that first race, that was 2 years ago. I came back to school in the States, and I was basically just kind of studying things that I didn't want to study. So it was actually just this last spring I decided to take a break or drop out of school, as you might say, to come and. So I went back over to Europe, kind of using some of the contacts I had made when I was over there before, and just kind of putting myself out there to make new contacts. I didn't really have that much of a plan. I spent like a total of 4 months this summer, kind of, I don't know, you could say couch surfing / camping / doing whatever it took to kind of just stay over there as long as possible and basically check off all of these swim runs that, I mean, I had heard probably like you guys talk about on the show, because at this point I had been listening to maybe some of your like earlier episodes. I don't even know how long you've been going for now.
Neither do we.
We've blacked out. Yeah.
So, but I remember you like talking about Rockman, or there was this one episode you were talking to a couple about Engadin, and it just sounded like the most epic race ever. And I'm like, at that point, like, I don't know, they were doing like Ironmans and stuff where I'm like, that's not even like possible in my head. And it just something was like, well, I have to go like try. And then like after I did it, I'm like, well, you know, like maybe maybe there's something to this. Maybe I'm actually capable of like more than I realize. And then it kind of just, it was building blocks. It was like one small swim run and then a little bit harder and then a multi-day adventure and then Rockman and then the world champs. So I feel like I got so much swim run experience in this one summer, whereas I still have so much room to grow as a swim runner. I really challenged myself to what was possible this summer, and I look forward to like continue to grow. But I'm so happy that I was able to do everything. I was able to knock off like all the dream like swim runs in one summer.
Yeah. Great summer.
Well, you know, I would say, so I have a couple comments. One is, we think that the holy triumvirate of the 3 hardest swim runs is the World Championships, Rockman, and Engadin.
We've only done one of them.
I mean, not counting like one water race or something like that, but in terms of like what you would consider like a 1 day swim run, those are the top 3, and you did them all in one summer. My second comment is we were going to call the show Swimrun Adventurer, but I think now we need to call it sort of the Summer of Swimrun, a Summer of Swimrun with Brendan or something, because I think that's just, I like the way that sounds. Now my third point, and this is an actual question, is like, so what is it about Swimrun? I mean, it seems like you're super stoked on it, which we get, preaching to the choir. All our listeners are also in this choir, but like, what is it about it that keeps drawing you towards it and that you want to grow with it and keep doing it?
Yeah, I think it was something, I think it was almost the timing that I entered it into. It was almost the timing that it entered into my life that played a really significant role. I know a lot of people I meet who are like, you know, stoked on Swimrun have like a triathlon background or like some sort of endurance sport background. Like I can't really relate to that because I was never like a triathlete. I've never done a triathlon. Like I've never really I mean, my first introduction into any endurance sport was the final 15, was swimrun. So like, it was like, I almost come from like, I love the outdoors. I grew up like in Sisters Bend, Oregon, like that area. So I come from like a love of the outdoors and more of like the hiking, backpacking, like mountain biking. So I think it definitely has these elements of adventure and just like kind of you would get a feeling just on a long backpacking trip. You just do it all in one day and like through water. And I really like that. And yeah, so I guess to answer the question, it's just like it was, and then also, yeah, so the timing that I found I also like wasn't really doing any sports in college at that point. I'd always been really active growing up, and I was kind of missing something from my life because I just wasn't doing any sports anymore. So I was almost like, I need to be doing something active, like something to, balance out like schoolwork and things like that. And then it was just, I kind of had heard about it through like Vivo Barefoot. Like my high school teacher would wear those shoes. So I was like, I looked that up and I'm like, wait, what are these weird shoes? And then it's like Attila. And then it almost became like this dream of something to like hold on to. It's like I would, spend my nights as I think a high school senior, scrolling through the Attila website, looking at these people, just totally believing like these people are like a step above like anything that I'm capable of. So I think I'm trying to think of when the moment was where I really believed like, wait, like I'm actually like the same, like these people aren't people. Like,
you are
like
those,
I am those people. So I think it was at some point this summer. Going into this summer, I still didn't have confidence in myself. And somewhere, maybe it was after Engadin, where I realized I'm like, wait, like I did this. Like it wasn't fast, but I did this. So
awesome.
I think, does that answer the question?
Sure. No, that's great.
Cool.
And so Engadin was was that the World Series distance? Did you do it solo or with a partner on that one?
So that one was solo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So, I'm hearing, and I'm really coming through the.
Well, let's get a little mini race report
from Engadin.
Yeah, let's get a little Engadin. How did it go, man? I mean, it's obviously beautiful. We're tentatively planning on doing it next summer, as our like big European explosion trip or whatever. But yeah, give us your take on it.
Yeah, so I mean, the place to stay, it's like I just stayed at the campground right next to the start of the race. I packed a bag. I borrowed a tent from a friend I had made in Europe, and I was just sleeping in a tent. And it was definitely, it was like the race was as beautiful as advertised. The water was, colder than
advertised.
Colder than advertised. It was probably like about as cold as maybe like Rockman. I like, that's also some cold water in the deep fjord. And I think that the big thing that I did differently going into that race than maybe other races is every other swim run I had done up to that point, I kind of would burn out in the front end because I would just go out too hard. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to go so slow at the beginning, like basically almost walking. It's just like a really slow jog. And I'm just going to go the pace that I want to go, in 6-7 hours. And that got me through. And, as in swim run, there's ups, there's downs, I'm feeling great. I could do this. My legs are going to fall off. So
everything in between,
and everything in between. The last swim, was the hardest. That was like one of the first times where I was like, I don't like, it's literally just one more swim, but like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to finish. I was just like, it couldn't have been farther. The inclines are brutal, but it's not technical trail. So it's kind of forgiving in that sense. Like it's just, a gravel road straight up. Whereas Rockman is like a bouldering like route straight up. So so unfortunately I just did that solo because I didn't have a partner. I would have liked to have a partner, and I would have liked to like collected points and stuff, but I ended up being able to do the world champs anyways, so it worked out.
Nice. And that was another sort of confidence marker for you there, finishing that race off. Surely that must have put some wind in your sails. And how did your sort of your multi-day swimrun adventure start unfolding? Was it before Engadin, or did you had more motivation after Engadin to do something bigger?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So before Engadin, I was spending 2 or 3 weeks in England with, I guess you could call them a college friend. Just a couple that I knew that was living over in Europe who invited me to stay at their place. And basically getting to Engadin was really challenging. Not so much like it was challenging physically, but it was really like it was really hard to like I guess say this is something I want to do. This is something that's like worth being done. This is something that's like worth spending money on. This is something like I'm not crazy for wanting to do this. And then afterwards, actually, I think like after it, I just wanted to go. That was kind of like the low point of my summer. Like I just wanted to go home. I was like, you know what? Like I did like one race. Like I'm just ready to like get on a flight back and like just be around, friends and family. Because this whole summer I was spending it pretty much alone in Europe. So it was kind of like an emotionally low point. But the multi-day swim run was set to happen either a week or a week and a half after Engadin. And I just knew, I'm like, okay, I got to at least stay through that. Like I already committed to doing it. The 2 guys who invited me on it, I met them at like a community swim run meetup earlier, I think in May. And I had already like committed. They were super stoked that I was coming. I was like, couldn't believe that they would actually want me to come because I wasn't sure that if I was going to finish or not. But they're like, yeah, just kind of like come. And I'm like, okay, sure. It's like, it's no big deal. Like we're just going to have a good time. And that's what it was. It was just it was a good time. We were moving really slow and really long days.
And who is this where, trying to think if I have like the right location right, but Max Mockerman, like Tobias and G-Flow, they were part of this.
Yeah, they were the
those two
madmen behind this whole plan.
That makes sense. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, those guys are super stoked on Swimrun.
They are very, very stoked.
Like, shout out Toby and G-Flow.
So how walk us through this multi-day adventure? Some of your highlights from it, and where'd you go? Like, give us the deets.
Yeah, so I'll do my best. I was like looking at a map, and I'm like, forget trying to say the names of the towns. But it was in southern Bavaria. So that's along the German, Austrian, Swiss border of the Alps. On more so on the German side. We started, so we took a train to Munich, and then from Munich we took a regional train a couple hours south to a city that I can't pronounce that had a lake that we started swimming in. And yeah, so that first day, I think it was about 10 miles until we got to our first, oh man, what are they called? They're like hotels in the middle of the woods.
Like a yurt or something?
No, they have these all over Europe. It's basically like little huts, and you go from hut to hut, and you basically
Swiss Family Robinson.
Well, it's like you can do them in like Mont Blanc and stuff, where you have to hike 12 miles to the next hut, and that's where you stay and have dinner and stuff. And the next day, you just hike to the next hut.
You go to a different one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Scandinavia how they have the huts. but it's even a little different of a vibe from that. So that's where we were staying. So we would, do a full day of swim running and stay in these huts. The first day, was no problem. It was just a few miles. The second day, that's when we got into basically doing like 20 to 26 miles a day. And the second day, it was like, okay, it was like, I know I'm going to survive because I know I can at least do one like marathon distance. Then the third day is, I think, when we climbed basically a mountain, and it was really, really hard. And I remember at one point, like, just being up in the middle of like the Alps, and it was just super high elevation. It was kind of a foggy day, so we couldn't really see the summit. And I just remember, like, what am I doing? Like, but it's also like, this is so hard, but like, there's nothing like I'd rather be doing right now than like stepping up this mountain.
I mean, it seems like the most random thing in the world.
Yeah, it's like I'm like literally, I think you could count on your hands the number of people who have, like, lots of like crazy alpinists have done like things that I haven't done, but like, how many have actually gone and like, we're gonna swim and run in like this bizarre suit? It's like there's probably a select few people who have done that.
For sure. Well, I mean, that's definitely one of the beauties of the sport, right? The sport's still so young. There's still like crazy ass people doing crazy ass stuff, and it's the first time someone's done that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, we got through. I remember that day. So Toby, he had like I think he had an injured foot or something. Like, he was still recovering. So he brought a mountain bike. So he was doing this thing. It's like, okay, well, I'll bike around, and then I'll run and meet you up the mountain. And like, basically he was like doing this whole thing with a bike to kind of make it easier. And ultimately, I think the first 3 days I pretty much did it like totally running. And then I think 2 to 3 of the days I also like kind of cheated, and like, he let me use his bike, and then he did some running, and yeah, so it was kind of like a swim run with some mountain biking.
The spirit of it.
Yeah, I mean, you basically did a triathlon, so there you go.
Yeah, that was my first triathlon.
Yeah. So how many days total did this adventure end up being for you?
So it was, we started, I believe, on Sunday, and we ended on Friday. So it was six days.
Wow.
And yeah, there was a couple like highlights. I think it was either the third or fourth day. I guess you could say I got lost, for lack of better terms. And it kind of was reflective on, I feel like, my life, because I felt kind of lost in life. And basically there was this fork, and I went the wrong way, and it started raining really heavy. And so I took shelter in, like, they have these little hunting cabins in Germany that the hunters sit in, and I think watch for deer is, I think, what they're for. Yeah. And I was just sitting in one of those, and I'm like, I think I went the wrong way. And like, I didn't really want to like get up and go the right way, because it was just more walking. But it was like one of those moments where I'm like, well, I have to, like, if I'm going to finish this race, or if I'm going to finish this adventure, like, I have to keep walking. And then Toby, like, it had been so long, like, Toby went out looking for me. And I remember just like falling down on the side of the road and sitting. And then finally Toby came, and I'm just like, oh, thank God. And then then he started like running, I think like 7-minute miles or something, while I was like cycling. And I was just like, dude, I don't know how this man's a beast. Like, he's just like running so fast, and I like barely can coast like down on a mountain bike. So that was a really good memory. And then the last day we climbed the tallest mountain in Germany, the Zugspitze. And then we had beers on top of there. And it's pretty sketch climbing up that mountain. There was points where I'm like,
were you in a wetsuit, or?
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
Yeah, so it kept me kind of warm. But there was parts where I was like climbing, and I looked back, and I'm like, dude, if I fell, I would die. Like, like this is not a good thing for someone who's been doing this for 6 days to be climbing. But I definitely felt safer that a couple guys were there doing it with me, and then we took a cable cart down because I was like, no way that I'm going back down that.
Probably drunk after one beer too. That one beer at elevation, you're probably like,
honestly, time. Probably, yeah. That's another story of my first time getting drunk with Flo, and a Nuremberg swim run. It's like, let's go swim running through Nuremberg, and I'm like, okay. And then it's like, let's drink a beer like every 30 minutes while we're like 80 degrees and like not drinking any water.
Wow.
That was 2 days before Engadin, so I was definitely suffering still on race day.
That's understandable.
I mean, wow, that's a banger of a story. You just like slipped it right in. That's so great.
Yeah. So yeah. No, German guys, those guys are crazy. So, but I love them.
Nice. So you had this adventure under your belt, and sounds like maybe 100, 200 miles of whatever, swimming, swim running, biking, whatever, hiking, walking, it doesn't really matter. It was quite the adventure. And then Rockman came on your radar somehow. Had you already registered? It's just you're like, hey, I already did this in Alps thing. Rockman should be nothing.
Okay, yeah. So Rockman, I was in Sweden doing kind of a couple of the smaller swim runs, EX and Boris, and that's where I met Tor, the director of Rockman, and we kind of just we talked a little bit, hit it off, and he actually directed me to. So I basically I thought I had a problem, which I was like, man, I'm gonna run out of like time to stay on my visa over in Europe, so I need to go to like the UK because visa stuff. And I ended up not needing to go to the UK. You can actually, as an American, spend 3 months in Scandinavia and 90 days in Stegen. Just for any listeners out there who want to travel, pro tip. But anyways, I ended up going to the UK, helping with the Keltman Extreme Triathlon, running a marathon with a guy in that, which was one of Tor's friends. And then he invited me. He's like, hey, if you're still around in Rockman, like come help set up the course. You can stay, with me, and you can just have a slot in Rockman, kind of as being paid for the help of doing that. And I'm like, well, heck yeah, like I'll do that.
Dude,
like,
wow. Tor is he's a good dude. I mean, obviously he wanted some free labor, but he's a good dude.
Because Marcus probably wouldn't do it. Marcus Barton said, no, he's not going to set the course. He's like, I need to find another sucker.
I think he did set the course, though.
No, I said it with Marcus. We were both suckers. So,
but, 2 suckers are better than one.
But it was worth it. I feel good about it.
For sure.
So that's kind of how that happened. Which that was a really early win for me because I had come to Europe kind of, not knowing what I was doing. So just getting to, meet Thor, and then early on, like, just be invited to do like one of the races that I really wanted to do. It kind of it helped me stay anchored. And it's like, if I can just make it to Rockman, like I'll be okay. Because then if I could make it to Rockman, then it's 2 more weeks until the world champs.
Yeah. So you already had your slot for world champs at Rockman?
Yeah, so World Champs, basically I emailed them maybe it was July 29th or something, when that Attila newsletter went out about some wildcard spaces being left over. So I basically shot them an email. Originally, I was trying to get my friend to do it with me, who I had done a Orcas Island swim run the previous year with. And then he wasn't able to make it over. So then the gentleman that I did do the swim run with, his name was Martin, Nicholas Ramirez introduced me to him. So he kind of made that match, and it worked out really well.
Coach Nico's that's what he does. Quite the magician with that sort of thing.
Oh yeah. Yep. He's definitely a swim run matchmaker. So, yeah.
Cool. So you had Rockman went. It was a hell of a day out there. We heard, read, and saw all sorts of things out there. But it was as epic as advertised.
Yeah, like even more so. It's like you read, like it was. I mean, from the very morning, like it was kind of just stormy and like windy and just everything that you would expect Rockman to be. And I'm really glad it was. It definitely added like a layer of just epicness. And yeah, it was kind of like the world champs, that it was kind of like that first swim. It was just windy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I almost another, like Rockman was another race that had a swim where I was like almost gave up because I'm not a very strong swimmer. Like everyone there'll be teams that just pass me in the water and I'm like, I didn't even see you, Pat. Like, how are you this far ahead of me? Like I'm so much faster at running than you, but then they're just really dialed in swimming.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm working on. And nice. It's just also when you're a bad swimmer, you just stay in the water longer and get colder. So it's not good.
Hey man, you're still getting out there. I mean, a lot of people aren't even showing up for that stuff. So yeah. So at this point, are you feeling pretty fit? Like, are you feeling like in good shape in terms of like? I mean, you've had just a lot of adventuring, a lot of moving. Going into the World Champs, obviously that race now has this other goal for you, right? This was the one that you said you wanted to do after your first one. Are you feeling ready for it? You feeling like up for the challenge of it?
Yeah. So when I did the multi-day swim run, I'm like, okay, my body can withstand a whole lot more than I've ever given myself credit for. Mm-hmm. And then once I did so I kind of knew, I'm like, I think I can get through Rockman. And then I was like, if I can get through Rockman, I know I can everyone's saying that I can get through the World Champs. So by the time I got to the World Champs, yeah, there was no stress. I fully knew like I could do it. And that was definitely nice. By the time I did Rockman, I kind of also, I don't know, I was just getting more and more confident. It's like, well, I know I can at least do it.
Right.
And yeah, like it's definitely, I've never been super great at like following a training plan. I've always just been like, let's like get out there and just do it. And like I'd rather my training just be doing like a race every single day for the whole summer, like that's my type of training, just get out there and do it. And yeah, so like by the time I did the World Champs, I definitely felt like, probably the fittest I've ever been. I still kind of feel, kind of the fittest that I've been, like now, even though like, I'm definitely been, you could say, tapering for a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best part of being the other side of worlds is just dialing it back. Damn.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I look forward to future challenges and like what that will mean and pushing myself not only in crazy races but also like in prepping for those races.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the World Champs. I mean,
new partner,
how are you feeling? That first swim was a hell of a swim. But what did you think of the course? And yeah, give us a little mini race report on that one.
Yeah, so this is like, I don't know, what is it? So I was listening to another podcast and like something that I know it's not only you guys.
Now.
It's really hurt right now.
There's like a quote. It's like so it's like for me, like finishing this race was like, my Mount Everest up to this point. So it's like the joy that you get from, getting to the top of Everest is the joy that you brought with you.
Yes. And yes, it's from a writer, the hell's his name? Robert Pirsig, from the Zen of Motorcycle Maintenance. and the quote is, "The only Zen you find at mountaintops is the Zen you bring up there with you."
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, but joy, okay. you can put joy in there, thing. No problem.
Okay,
so like add Mount Everest.
Yeah,
yeah, or nice. So I was 100% right. Okay. So, anyways, that's kind of I didn't know, because I always had this thing in my mind, crossing the finish line during that final 15K. I don't think I'll ever feel like that was such a raw, pure first time joy of just like feeling something for the very first time. And I was kind of expecting or hoping for it to feel like that again. It didn't. Like, spoiler alert, like still the most satisfied moment of my life was when I did that first swim run. I don't know. I guess it's like falling in love for the first time. Like, there's something special about that. But now however, I can say that just the joy of running that race, was crazy, because I was just so happy to be doing it. And I don't know how to explain this, but I wasn't stressed out. I was like, I just knew that this is where I'm supposed to be at this moment. And like, we're just going to do the race. And like, we're just going to have a good time. And that's, what I tried to do. Stay, not too focused on, racing per se, because I was just racing myself, for this time, and just being like, oh my, like I'm doing this. A really cool thing was seeing, did you guys see, Michael, along the course
at the cabin,
just like hanging out?
Yeah, he was like, no, I need to like watch what I say. He was like Thanos, kind of, like just like kicking back, like on a Grateful to verse.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of what he's nothing like Thanos, but
of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Yes, but yeah, that was same for us. Like, I remember like seeing him, being happy to see him, giving him hugs, and then we go on, and I'm just immediately start talking to Chipper. Is like, that was really weird, right? That was just like, so it seemed super random. It seemed like poetic in a way. It seemed it was a little sad in a way, but it was also like, he'd been doing this thing for like 18 years, like he wanted to see people go through. And, everyone that we heard who saw him, because I guess he wasn't there like the entire time, they were super happy to see him, so whatever, hopefully he got whatever he was hoping to get out of that. He got a hug from the Low Tide boys. I'm sure a lot of other people were giving him hugs too.
Yeah. I gave him a hug as well. Just because I would say, if it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have come back. Like that, because when I crossed that finish line for the first time, it's like he was there, like he gave me a hug, and it was just something about him that was just like, it's like I don't know, he saw me. However, and I'm sure, many people have felt like that kind of through what he created. And I think that was part of the sadness of it, is like knowing like, man, like he's not going to be there at the finish line. So I was really happy just that, I got to see him on the course. I also got to race Rockman with him. So I kind of got to like sit down with him before, like, my partner just happened to sit at, his table. I was like, oh, cool. And just had kind of a conversation with him about life, and about like, he was kind of just affirming, like, it's okay that you have no idea what you're doing like this summer. And like, sometimes you just gotta step back from life and just take a break. And I don't know. He was kind of like kind of just like a guardian angel kind of through this stage of my life. So it was super cool. Seeing him there, and the race was great. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. He was a bit stronger than me, so he pulled me through Orno, which I felt less bad when I was listening to obviously, you know, like Max and Hugo, whole another level. But what was it that Max was pulling? No, that Max like pulled Hugo kind of through Orna, and I'm like, okay, see, like it's a team, like, you know, it's like it's okay. Because I kind of was feeling bad about that. I was like, man, so. But that's another cool thing about the sport is like you're part of a team, so you work together.
Yeah, definitely. Man.
Yeah.
And you've been tapering off since then, but obviously you sound like someone with a lot of big aspirations and plans. Where are you thinking for your next swim run adventures?
So I mean, I'll be in Austin. Quite a bit of my family is going to be joining me down there. Nice. That's something that my mom has always kind of supported me through the sports that I do. So she's always liked kind of seeing that. She couldn't make it out, you know, to Sweden. That would have been cool. But so she'll be there. So that's my next thing. And then, right now it's like, I just kind of have my eyes set on next swim run season. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to try to, you know, do 2.0, like do all the races again, just kind of better planned and more like, you know, just better planned, honestly, less stress. Yeah. So,
okay.
And then, I mean, I don't know. It's like, when I set the world champs as a goal, it was so ridiculous to me in my head. So it's like, I do kind of have this thing. It's like, you know, in the next few years, like, you know, do I want to do like the one water race? Like, is that, you know, like, is that in the cards? So I'm careful to say that, but that would be cool. Maybe within the next, like, I don't know, 2-3 years to do that. Maybe longer. I don't know.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I mean, that's great. I mean, I think it's like, what I really appreciate about you is, you know, what the lens of what's possible through swimrun for you. It's like the lens is fully open, right? It isn't like you don't feel pigeonholed into anything. Like you're just doing what you want. You want to do the races over, you can. If you want to aim super big and do like an adventure, you can. I mean, it's keep that lens open, man. I mean,
yeah.
It's swimrun. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, I was just in Yosemite. I won't get to. That's a whole nother like story. But I my friends and I, we were supposed to move to LA, kind of in this crazy adventurous fashion, and something ended up happening. But I was in Yosemite, and I'm like, there's a lot of lakes up there. So I was thinking of even doing like a mega swim run next summer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, Bass Lake, Chipper and I went camping there with our families.
We did a half marathon.
It's like outside of Yosemite, but yeah, there's like
it was cold.
Tons of lakes there. Yeah,
it was in May or something, right? April?
I don't remember.
Anyway.
But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we see that here. Like for a while during COVID, we were scoping out Lake Sonoma, which is about like 45 minutes, an hour away from us. But yeah, you could just like swim run all over the place up there. Yeah, there's a lot of swimmer adventuring to do, especially if you got like Toby and G Flow and they're like planning it out. You can just show up and go.
Honestly, that's my next plan. Hopefully, if they'll still have me, you know, just figure out what they're doing. Because that was. It just went. I was thinking. I was like, you know, how could that trip have gone better? And I'm like, honestly, that trip like couldn't have gone better. Like they planned it so well, and I'm like, I just need to get to that caliber of like planning, and things will go.
Their DMs are about to blow up. Well, Brendan, also you're a member of the Long Hair Society, so you know you're an honorary low tide boy for sure. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I mean, your summer swim run sounded just epic, and like your attitude towards the sport, it's amazing. I love it, and super inspiring in that same breath. So thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate you, man. And we'll see you in Austin in a few weeks.
It's a couple weeks away.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Cool.
For sure.
All right. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel too.
Of course, yes.